I believe in local control. I don't think our state government has to be telling all of us how to live our lives either, but I think that local government's really important for a reason, and we should be preserving that in Missouri. But again, this goes back to why a civil rights division. I'm not talking about a commission. It's so important. I'm not talking about expanding how big the Attorney General's office is. When I worked there, we had 200 assistant attorneys general working for you. Today, we're at about half of that number, and it's not because they don't have the budget for it, it's because they don't have the leadership to retain people in that office. People don't want to work there because of all the stuff that's happening right now there. So I'm not proposing to expand the office. When we have a consumer protection division that's fully staffed, we're bringing money into Missouri. When we have a civil rights division that's fully staffed, we're bringing money into Missouri. When we have an environmental and a conservation division that's fully staffed, we're bringing money into Missouri because we're punishing those who are violating and exploiting the people of the state of Missouri. And so I'm saying that we need to get that office focused on preserving your rights under the Constitution. That's what a civil rights division would do.
Thank you. Here's a couple more questions about the legal system. The new bail system appears to be successful in Illinois. Do you support no cash bail?
You said bail system.
No,
correct?
Yeah, do you support no cash bail?
Yeah, I think so. So that we reformed the bail system a bit here in Missouri, not to the degree that some other places have. And so there's a question. I've represented people who have been locked in St. Louis City jails who did not commit any crimes. They were there because they couldn't afford to get out. And I represented a young girl who was 18 years old. She spent 7 months there because she couldn't afford $100 to get out. For 15 of those days, she wasn't even charged with a crime, and they just let her there. They dismissed the case against her until I represented her. I think that there's a lot of folks that if you are being kept in jail because you are poor, that is a debtor's prison, and those should not exist in the United States of America in 2024. If we're talking about somebody who's a danger to society, we're worried about that, there are other ways to make sure that we keep those folks in there, but that's not what we're talking about with a lot of poor folks, and those are the people who so often are being screwed over by our government. Another reason why we need a civil rights division to make sure our rights are being upheld in the system. So I think that bail is certainly a big part of that as well.
Thank you. Mr. Monroe?
Well, I can't agree more. I don't think somebody should be held in jail because they're poor. I certainly think that the wheels of justice should operate equally for rich and poor. Regardless of who you are, they should operate equally. The bail system certainly impacts, as it sits right now, it impacts poorer families more than it impacts richer families. If that's going on, it needs to be adjusted. So, but there's a lot of things out there that need to be adjusted, not just the bail system. That's such a small area, an easy area actually to improve. And I would absolutely support it being improved because it's so easy to be done. It just needs to be fixed.
Thank you. Here's another one regarding the legal system. Currently, formerly incarcerated people must complete their entire probation and parole before they can register to vote. Would you favor having the law changed to allow registration immediately after their release? So this is...
Yes.
Yes, but it's not going to be one word. So, want that to be counted against its time.
I see it to you.
So one of the things I learned, I don't know if you guys can hear me, one of the things I learned when I started looking at whether or not I was actually going to run, that I found out was that the people that are in jail actually count towards the population to represent in us in Jefferson County, or in Jefferson City. One of the things that we fought the British off for 250 years ago was taxation without representation. Why are those people not allowed to vote? Well, why are they being counted? One or the other. If they're being counted as a head to give power to different counties because they're in jail in that county, then give them the right to vote for their representatives. Simple. This is a 250-year-old debate that we're still having in the middle of this country? Silly. Just silly. So yes, and thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Gross, was there anything more you wanted to add?
No, I stand on my yes.
Okay, I'm going to give you this next one to start with. At least 7 people have died in the South Central Correctional Facility in Licking, Missouri this year. Last year, 19 men died, about 14% of the total deaths in all Missouri prisons. There are ongoing reports of abuse, neglect, corruption, and an active drug trade in the South Central facility. As Attorney General, will you commit to investigate the ongoing crisis at the prison in Licking, Missouri, and hold prison leadership accountable?
Yes. Look, I've been to that prison. I've actually slept in the Dairy Queen parking lot when I was Assistant Attorney General to save you all some money, so you're welcome. Look, that's actually where Christopher Dunn was housed before he was released. And it's not just Licking. We have problems throughout the institutions that we have. I'm a civil rights attorney, constitutional attorney. I get calls about this stuff all the time, unfortunately. There's a lot of money that we're all paying because the Department of Corrections in Missouri, one, they need some more support. They get paid so poorly to work there. But two, there is very little accountability, including with the Sunshine Law and the Public Records Law and what we all can see as taxpayers. So yes, I certainly intend to reform that, to investigate a lot of what's happening there, and their folks need to be held accountable. Another reason why I believe a civil rights division is so important, because our Attorney General needs to be the watchdog in our government, and we need to have the folks there to hold people accountable when they do the wrong thing.
Thank you.
Yes, like I said, there are going to be a lot of difference, especially when it comes to social issues that Mr. Gross and I differ on.
Please choose the mic, or is that stop working? Okay.
It's kind of in and out. I'll just yell out. Thanks. Maybe not. Equal application under the law, or of the laws in the state, include those working in the Department of Corrections and police officers. It shouldn't be us against them. It should be us for ourselves. If police are committing crimes, if Department of Corrections are committing crimes, they need to be investigated and prosecuted just as if they were outside of those institutions. There shouldn't be any favoritism for those institutions. There shouldn't be any bias against them. Those institutions need to be given the resources to do their job correctly. They're terribly underfunded. We can pick almost any of our institutions and say we're getting what we paid for, and we pay poorly. So if we want to start fixing issues, we probably need to start applying the laws equally and start paying what we expect to get. Because right now, we're not getting even what we're paying for. We pay very poorly in Missouri.
Thank you. If you were to create a civil rights division, to what extent would that be dependent on the legislature for enacting and funding it? In that, what would it, in your opinion, be doing? What would be its responsibilities? Mr. Monroe. This person's asking to create a new part of the AG office, like a civil rights division. To what extent would that be dependent on the legislature for enacting and funding? And what would its responsibilities be?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I will tell you that's one of the things that always drove me nuts about politicians is they get up here and they tell you they know the answer. You know, my father was a very successful business person. And the thing I learned between the two of us as a lawyer is I got taught to say I don't know. And I get rewarded for that. In fact, the first thing they said is, I don't know, give me $5,000, I'll have an answer for you on Tuesday. That was actually in law school. And I think it's better to have someone sit here and tell you, I don't know the answer to that, than tell you they know the answers. Because the answers aren't that easy, and they aren't that readily available, especially in a 1-minute time period. The reality is that I don't know if a civil rights division is the right approach or not. But I'm telling you that right now, is that I don't know. He seems very sold on that. Good for him. I think you need to be sold. But I think that equal application doesn't require a civil rights division. It requires someone at the top that holds the people working for him, the 200 assistant attorney generals, accountable for how they apply who they prosecute.
Well, that was a really good trap you set for me, because I'm about to say I know the answer to this. Whoops. Yeah, so look, and the structure of the Attorney General's office can change depending on who the Attorney General is. When I was there, we had multiple divisions, the Consumer Protection Division, I proposed a Civil Rights one. When Josh Hawley came in for his brief time there, it changed to 2 divisions, similar to what we have in the federal level, where you have a civil division and a criminal division. Eric Schmidt kind of accelerated that. So bottom line is the Attorney General can decide the structure of the office. Do you need the legislature to do something? I mean, the legislature is the one that has power over the purse and funding and all of this stuff too. So that's important if you need more funding for it. Again, I'm not asking for any more money. I'm just asking for better leadership and better use of the money that we already have at the Attorney General's office. Instead of filing a lawsuit against New York State that even the Supreme Court said, what in the world are you doing with Missouri taxpayer money? Maybe let's use it to actually benefit the people of Missouri.
Thank you. I'm going to continue on this a little bit further with another question from the audience. Mr. Gross, would you create new legal divisions in the AGO's office? And if so, what?
Would I create any new divisions?
Would you? Yeah.
Yeah, yes, I absolutely would. So Civil Rights Division, I would have a fully staffed Civil Rights Division at the Attorney General's office. We used to have an Environmental and Agricultural Division that Jay Nixon started, that Josh Hawley got rid of. I am bringing that back, and that is so important, especially for folks who live in this area, because we have nuclear waste that right now the federal government has left us with, and they hid that from us. And we have nobody in the Attorney General's office right now fighting to protect our families. We are going to change that when I'm Attorney General. We're going to protect our drinking water throughout the state. If you live near a meat processing plant, you're worried that thing's going to rip and get into your drinking water, well, you're going to have an Attorney General on your side making sure that's not happening. So I will definitely bring those 2 divisions to the Attorney General's office with me.
Thank you. Mr. Monroe?
You know, I don't necessarily disagree with the way it's organized right now. I mean, the way that the courts are organized is criminal and civil. I don't know if divisioning things off so that you're concentrating on one thing over another is the right, it means much. You know, it sounds good. It makes a good soundbite. But what does it mean on the ground? I mean, he didn't have a freedom of speech division to sue New York. I agree, that was silly. The Supreme Court agreed. But the point is that he had there's a civil division and a criminal division, because that's the way the courts are lined up. That seems to make sense to me. I don't know if there's going to be another, if under me I have other focuses. Certainly, consumer rights is one that is a big one for me because it seems to have been ignored. And it impacts the most of Missourians with the least amount of money. The reality is we have a lot of Missourians being scammed out of their hard-earned money when it comes to these robocalls or even just, you know, these contractors that go disaster to disaster, just trying to soak up what little money we have and then not give back what they've said they were going to do. I think the Attorney General could pull a lot of weight and do a lot of good for individual Missourians with that kind of focus.
Okay, Mr. Monroe, this is a continuation of some of the same questioning. You say that increasing the footprint by creating a civil rights division is unnecessary. Do you feel it is unimportant to have checks and balances in place to protect citizens from government overreach?
I think I said maybe unnecessary, but I don't want to get stuck on semantics here. Yes, checks and balances